Christ Church senior pastor Doug Wilson makes no apologies for his beliefs on God and country.
I'd like to see the town be a Christian town. I'd like to see the state be a Christian state. I'd like to see the nation be a Christian nation. I'd like to see the world be a Christian world.
Well, you know, that is a very un-American thing to say, because we're not a Christian nation or a Jewish nation or a Muslim nation or a theocracy of any kind. We're supposed to be a beautiful melting pot of all religions and a people with no religion at all. That's what our founding fathers wanted, the separation of church and state and the fundamental right of religious freedom for all, or in my case, freedom from religion, because I'm agnostic. And I'd like to say that Pastor Doug Wilson right there is some sort of fringe character with no ties to anything credible. But the problem is he is deeply embedded with Trump world. And the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he is actually promoting this guy from the pulpit of power in Washington, D.C., all while on your taxpayer dime. So hit subscribe to Really American Media as we send our democracy down the highway to hell.
And now Wilson's controversial views as a Christian nationalist are gaining sway in the nation's center of power with the recent opening of his new church and high-profile parishioners like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Is planting a church in D.C. part of your mission to try to turn this into a Christian nation?
Yes.
Well, at least he's not trying to hide it. Yeah, he wants a Christian nation. And apparently so does Pete Hegseth, as Pete just reposted that entire CNN interview with the message, all of Christ for all of life, which is not just some backwoods bumper sticker. That is a Christian phrase emphasizing that Christ should be the central focus in every aspect of a believer's life. That phrase highlights the idea that Christians should draw their strength and purpose from Jesus Christ in every area of their existence, and that Christ should be Lord over all. Good God. And keep in mind, the United States Armed Forces that Hegseth is in charge of, they have every religion represented, from Christians to Jedis, and no, that is not a joke. And of course, they've got plenty of Muslims.
Well, what would you say to someone watching this and say, look, I'm a Muslim. Who are you to say your worldview is better than mine, that your God is better than mine?
Well, if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would fully expect to live under their God's rules.
But you said earlier that you want this to be a Christian world.
Yes.
So you want to supplant their religion with your Christian.
Yes, by peaceful means, by sharing the gospel.
What a bullshit argument. Saudi Arabia is essentially a theocracy, and unlike America, they do not enshrine your right to religious freedom. Quite the opposite. But nice try there, Pastor. And I love that he gets busted for saying that he wants them to drop their religion and go with his. That is the part of religion that has always driven me nuts. The way people believe wholeheartedly in their book of fairy tales, but they think every other religion, it's silly and wrong. How could you believe that? I would imagine that kind of worldview probably does not go over very well in everyday America.
It's true. If it's true.
Why did he yell boo? Because it's
Because
of you.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's a regular day for you.
That's not unusual.
Well, it may not be unusual for you, but the rest of us don't get openly booed in public. You might want to take a good hard look in the mirror and ask yourself why that might be. And clearly, religious bigotry is part of that hatred he's getting, but I'd be willing to bet there's more going on.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's
well,
it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically.
All right, now, first of all, it does take some amount of talent if you're reproducing correctly. So I feel bad for that guy's wife. And hearing that ignorant medieval bullshit that women should submit to men makes me feel bad for all women in this fantasy world of his. And by the way, women in that fantasy world that our Secretary of Defense is currently promoting, you do not get to vote.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors, Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter, agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same
Right.
person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
I mean, talk about saying the quiet part out loud. That is what MAGA means. Make America Great Again means that there was a time that they thought America was awesome and they want us to go back to that era. And that's what they're talking about. When women couldn't vote, when being gay was illegal, but owning slaves was totally legal and pretty cool. And we'll get to all of that in a moment. Let's get back to demoralizing women a little more.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christ Church,
Right.
It's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and in government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
Progressive faith leader Reverend Jennifer Butler is concerned about Wilson's growing influence.
He is rapidly gaining in power. He has hundreds of churches established around the country. They actually literally want to take over towns and cities, and they have access to this administration.
Yeah, and again, this is the scary part. That religious zealot has a direct line to the White House, and they're not trying to downplay it at all.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by Evangelical pastor Paula White Cain, and people seen right outside the White House entrance praying and speaking in tongues.
We are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word.
How precious.
And now there's a monthly prayer service at the Pentagon, initiated by Hegseth, Wilson's highest level connection to the administration.
Yeah, now I don't know about you, but I have not been invited to the White House, and I don't have someone like the frickin' Secretary of Defense in my back pocket. But Pastor Wilson sure does.
For his part, Hegseth has publicly praised Wilson.
Now we're standing on the shoulders of a generation later, the Doug Wilsons and the others.
Wilson's influence spans the globe with more than 150 churches.
Unbelievable. And like I said earlier, this does not stop at cramming Christianity down your throat or telling women to stay in the kitchen and let the men do the voting. This nut job is also a racist turd that thinks the glass is half full when it comes to slavery.
Wilson maintains all are welcome to his church, but he's also not shying away from his past controversial statements on race.
Do you still believe what you said back in the 90s, that there's a mutual affection between master and slave?
Yes, it depends on which master and which slave you're talking about. Slavery was overseen and conducted by fallen human beings, and there were horrendous abuses, and there were also people who owned slaves who were decent human beings and didn't mistreat them.
Yep, you heard it right. Some slave owners are decent people. Now, where have I heard that line of bullshit thinking before?
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Oh, yes. And if misogyny and racism being allowed into Trump world isn't bad enough, for some reason, then how about a healthy dose of homophobia?
What he also wants gone? Same-sex marriage, because he thinks homosexuality is a crime.
In the late 70s and early 80s, sodomy was a felony in all 50 states. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep.
Unbelievable, if I have not used that word enough. And then I mentioned that this guy is endorsed by the Secretary of Defense and that the year right now is not 1825. And the sad part is, mega people that believe in this kind of bigoted garbage, they still actually think that they're the good people.
I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not a fascist. I'm not a racist. I'm not a misogynist.
And thanks for making my point for me. And you're wrong about literally everything you have said in that entire interview. Unbelievable. Yet this mindset, it is currently spreading nationwide. The idea of separation of church and state is dying on the cross, pun intended. And I want to vomit every time I see propaganda Barbie lying to us all while wearing a cross around her neck. The devil is laughing, God is crying, and if Jesus were resurrected today, he would absolutely vote blue. Although Trump would, of course, deport him first, and I hope that irony is not lost on you. So please like this video, share it worldwide so the rest of planet Earth doesn't think that all Americans feel this way, and please comment below. Get vocal. From the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve podcast, I'm Steve Harness for Really American Media.